Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Funny Shapes. If you don't know me, I'm your host, Lottie, and on today's episode, we're going to talk about the Monaco Grand Prix. First, if you can hear wind and water, I'm filming in my car again, so let's just ignore that. But yeah, like, this was possibly the best weekend of my life. First, on Friday, I got to see Taylor live. On Saturday, Charles gets pole for his home race, and on Sunday, he wins his home race. So it was perfect. It was everything I could have asked for. So let's talk about it. And let's be honest, I'm only going to talk about Charles in this episode. Like, I'm not going to talk about anyone else. Um, Even if I wanted, I always go back to Charles. So we're going to talk about Charles and maybe the other podium finishers, which were Oscar and Carlos. But mainly this episode will be Charles focused. So just a little PSI before I start. But yeah, it was everything. It was perfect. Like Friday in practice, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna dream too much because we all know that in multiple occasions on Friday in practice, we're like, okay, maybe Red Bull isn't as fast. Maybe they're not like they don't have the pace at this track. And then we get to quali and they top every single session in qualifying. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna dream too much. I was seeing posts of F1 pages being like the pole sitter for the last 2 years has been topping the practice times, and I was like, okay, but I'm not gonna dream too high because I will cry. So, I was like, okay, let's just take this one step at a time. Charles is very good in Monaco qualifying, and he has proven that before. But I was like, okay, I'm not gonna dream too much just because if it doesn't happen again, I will probably cry. So I was like, okay, practice, very good. Nothing major happened. No one crashed. We moved to quali. I didn't watch quali live because I was still at Lisbon when quali was on, and I was in the car. I was like in a little mini road trip, so I couldn't watch quali live. But I asked my friends to text me and to update me everything that was happening. And my friend texted me saying Charles got pole, and it was like an amazing lap. And I was like, okay. So when I got home at like 1 a.m., I watched quali. It was so good. His lap was absolutely amazing. Nothing like major happened. For example, someone crashing in Q3 and causing a red flag, which has happened before, and we all know that. But nothing happened that could ruin his pole position. And Max wasn't even close to getting pole position this time around, which is like surprising for F1 in 2024. But Red Bull wasn't locked in with the Monaco track, which I'm grateful for, to be honest. But yeah, Checo was in P18 and Max just didn't even get close to getting pole. Actually, they were like 3 tenths away from like pole position to seventh place or something like that. They were all very close, but I'm saying like it wasn't okay. We're gonna wait for Max's lap to see if he gets pole. No, it was just like okay, he's not getting pole today. It wasn't one of those weekends when we're like, okay, everyone is in a lap, but Max is gonna do like a monstrous lap and he's gonna take pole. He wasn't just very close to it. So yeah, we get Charles pole, and I'm like, okay, very good. I was so happy, but I was like, okay. Again, I'm trying to control my happiness because we're Ferrari fan. We need to control our excitement on Saturdays because we've had so many pole positions on Saturday and we couldn't make them into wins on Sunday. So I was like, okay, I'm going to control my excitement, even though it's Monaco, it's very hard to overtake, but 2022 proved that you can start in pole position and finish fourth with just the bad strategy. So I was like, okay, again, let's calm down, let's breathe, and let's okay, let's hope, but like a controlled hope. So yeah, Sunday comes around. I woke up like 1 hour before the race started. I was like, okay, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. And on Thursday, actually, I saw probably the most beautiful Ferrari I've ever saw in real life. It was a red Ferrari with a white stripe in the middle. And the first thing that I saw is I'm going to take this as a sign that Charles will win in Monaco. I told this to my best friend. She doesn't watch F1. She doesn't understand it. She was like, yeah. And I was like, I am delusional. Not saying that I'm not, but I'm going to believe it. I'm going to believe it because it helps me sleep at night. And I made a TikTok on Friday when I was in line to Taylor saying that signs that Charles will win the Monaco Grand Prix. I don't know what it was, but I was just feeling that this year it was going to happen. It could have not happened because we're Ferrari fans. We're extremely delusional. But I was like, I could feel it that it would be the perfect weekend. I was going to see Taylor for the first time live, and Charles was going to win his home Grand Prix. Okay, Sunday comes around, race starts. We have the lap one chaos. We have Carlos and Oscar having just a little kiss because lately they seem to be like very close together, like have a magnet that pulls them together. Carlos kind of loses it, but since there was such a big accident in the back with Checo, Nico, and Kevin, we got a red flag. And I'm so glad that everyone was okay because that was so scary. The videos of the accident are extremely scary. The stewards having to like duck down because there was so much smoke and like pieces of the car flying. It was really, really scary, but everyone is okay, so that's what matters. But yeah, thanks to that, we had a red flag and Carlos could go back to P3 to start for the second start of the race. But that red flag was very good because they could change tires, and in F1, pit stops are not really mandatory, but you need to use at least two different sets of tires. For example, you can start with a medium and then change to hard, or start in soft, change to medium, whatever. But you need to use two sets of tires, two different sets of tires. So when the red flag came around, the majority of the teams did that. They changed from mediums to hards, and those tires lasted the whole race. For example, Charles, he didn't pit through the whole race, which was very good. Oscar, I don't think Oscar pitted. Did he? I don't think so. Oscar didn't pit. Again, there was like very little pit stops. I don't think the top 10 went into the pits. I might be wrong, but I think the top 10 did not even go into the pits. But yeah, it was like after the red flag, it was a very, very normal race. It was just them going around, and there was like a 20-second gap between Lando and George, which was like crazy. And the track map with the cars, it's so funny because it's like four little cars, which was Charles, Oscar, Carlos, and Lando in the front, and then like a giant gap and all of the other cars behind them. But yeah, it was an amazing race. It was just Monaco, where you don't have a lot of overtakes. We did have like maybe 2 or 3 overtakes. I'm not even sure. But like those overtakes were in the back for like not point scorers overtakes. Let's pretend my iPad just didn't fall twice in 11 minutes. Okay. But yeah, it was like a pretty normal race, but 25 laps to the end, I was like, this is happening. This is actually happening. Charles is going to win his home Grand Prix after 2 DNFs, 1 DNS, a strategy disaster in 2022. And last year, the car just wasn't in a spot that they could win a race, at least Monaco. But I was like, this is happening. But I was like, okay, no, I'm not celebrating yet because I need to control it again. I need to control it because we're Ferrari fans. We've had so much um, races that we were like, this is ours. It's done. It's like we're winning, and then we didn't. So yeah, I was like, okay, it's happening. I was in my car watching it because it was election day where I live, and I had to go vote. Someone was like, okay, come down and I'll go meet you. And I was like, okay, fine. But then she took a lot longer, and I was just in my car watching the race. And like the last lap, I was crying. I was crying like a baby in public, and I couldn't give two shits about it. I was crying. I was like, oh my god, this is actually happening. And it did. Charles won his home race finally. And it was. And one thing that will always be engraved in my mind is Alex Jake's commentary, and it was perfect because we all know that Charles, a few days before his father passed away, he told him just a little lie that he had signed the contract and that he was an F1 driver. At the time, that wasn't true. He hadn't signed the contract yet, but he said it so his father could like go in peace, knowing that their dreams had come true and that his son was an F1 driver. But now he actually is an F1 driver. He just won the race that made him fall in love with the sport. And it was so sweet to see him cry. And he said that in the last two laps, he was coming out of the tunnel and he was struggling to see because he was starting to cry. And he was like, no, fuck, Charles, no, not now. And it's so sweet. The interview had me bawling my eyes out because he was so emotional, dedicating it to his father. And one thing that I really, really loved about the commentary after Charles's win was that they made sure to let us know that even though Charles is from Monaco, he didn't have the money that most people from Monaco have. That if it wasn't for Ferrari and if it wasn't for Jules, that Charles wouldn't have the budget to get into F1. And Jules looked at Ferrari and said, please take this kid in. And they did. And well, it was proven that he's an amazing driver. But I loved that they made sure that everyone knew that he's not just some little rich boy from Monaco that had everything given to him and he just got into F1 just like that, you know? For example, his brother had to like take a step back in his racing career so Charles could have like more opportunities. And that just shows how the Leclerc family works, and it's so so sweet. And you know that race win meant so much to so many people that everyone was crying. The Prince of Monaco was crying. Charles's brother was crying. His best friend was crying. Alex was crying. The stewards were crying. I was crying. Probably every single Charles fan was crying. And it's just, it's so special. So, so special. Like, I remember making a TikTok in 2022. It was one of those audios that people like put together. For example, that one saying Charles Leclerc is champion of the world, but it was like Charles Leclerc wins the Monaco Grand Prix, and I said I can't wait because it was after the Monaco Grand Prix in 2022, and I said I can't wait for this to become reality. And now that it did, it's so 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 special, and I'm so incredibly happy. It's been like 4 days and I'm still smiling from year to year. And I keep seeing all the edits and it's so special. Charles has been my favorite since day one. Like the first race that I watched, which was Bahrain 2022, he has been my favorite. Never changed. Not even when we were like at our lowest point and he was like just not winning anything. Like he's my favorite and he always will be. And maybe that's because I see myself in Charles' personality sometimes. And like when he loses, for example, after the French Grand Prix in 2022, he completely shut down to the world. And I kind of see myself in him, and I do that a lot. But yeah, I kind of just see myself in him, and he's always gonna be my favorite no matter what. And it was so good to experience a Charles win again. We hadn't experienced one of those in almost 2 years since July 2022. It was extremely, extremely, like, it felt so good to finally experience it. And the sigh of relief that he let down when he was in that top step of the podium, listening to his anthem with his flag around him, it was one of the best things I've ever saw. And the fact that in 1 month we had two F1 curses just broken like that, which was Lando no wins and the Charles Monaco curse. Not only that, but they had pretty much the same reaction while in the podium. They just let out such a sigh of relief that they finally achieved what they've been racing their whole lives for, which for Lando was to get a win in F1, and for Charles was to win the Monaco Grand Prix, since it was like the race that he always dreamed of winning. And yeah, it was so, so special. And I can't wait to see if we're going to have any other race winners this year. And I really hope the next one is Oscar, because I think he really deserves to win a race. And we might have a new curse in the making. Actually, we're like, is the curse the M curse, or is the curse the Charles music curse? Because so far, the only races that Max hasn't won are the races that Charles made a song last year. It was Australia 2023, Miami 23, and Monaco 2023. So, is it is it a Charles music curse, or is it the M curse? Because all of because those also have one thing in common. They all start with M. Melbourne, Miami, Monaco, or actually Monte Carlo if we're going to go with cities. Next one is Montreal. I think that will probably sell this if it's like Charles's music or the letter M. And actually, before Melbourne, the last race that Max hadn't won was Marina Bay. So it's more like we're more inclined to the M curse than to the Charles curse, or maybe it's both. But yeah, we'll see. And I think, I'm sorry if any Red Bull fans are watching this, but I think Red Bull's downfall is incoming. I'm very sorry, but I think it's happening. But yeah, I will see you for the next episode of Funny Shapes. This was a very hard episode to film because I'm filming in my car, but my iPad just decided to start falling every 5 minutes. Now I'm like, if you're watching this on YouTube, I am holding my iPad because my iPad just decided he was not gonna hold anymore. So, well, that's fun. But yeah, I'll see you for the next episode, and bye.